All right, now in this example of the product rule, the only thing that really makes this one kind of difficult is the form at which we find things in right now. So notice in the first quantity, we have this 1 over x that we have to deal with. In the second quantity, we have this 1 over x squared that we have to deal with. So how do we handle that? If you've done a lot of the power rule practice, you probably know exactly how each of those things needs to be algebraically manipulated in order to derive it. Okay, so we're going to still use the product rule here because we have two things being multiplied together. We have our first function, which is this quantity, and our second function, which is this quantity. But before we go about deriving things using the product rule, knowing that we have to use the power rule eventually, we need to turn this purple underline thing and the green underline thing into a form that's easy to use the power rule with. All right, so how do we do that? We're going to rewrite this entire lovely thing so that we don't have x's in the denominators, we have x's in the numerators, so that way we can use the power rule. So we have x plus x to the minus 1, because that's what 1 over x is equal to, just using your exponent properties. And then we're going to do the same thing in the second quantity. So this gives us x to the minus 2. Then we have x plus x squared minus 5. Okay? So now all the exponents are up where they need to be. We have no fractions of x stuff in it. We're all well and good because now we can derive these things using the power rule when the time comes. So the idea with most things in mathematics and getting good at mathematics is knowing what's coming next. So that will help you write things more smoothly, less scratch work, just by knowing what's going to happen eventually. So we know we're going to have to use the power rule while we're using the product rule. So we probably wanted to simplify it. That's why we did this. Okay, deriving this. That's our first function. This is our second one. How do we do this? Derive the first. So this gives us 1 plus minus 1 times x to the minus 2. We literally took our minus 1, brought it down in front, subtracted 1 from the exponent. That's all we did. We'll simplify that in the next step. I'll put that in purple parentheses just so we're consistent. Okay, now for the second one, copy paste. Nothing changes. Nothing. And by the way, no, you cannot add these two things together because the exponent is different. Okay, so leave the second alone. Copy paste the first. And then derive the second. So to derive the second, move the minus 2 down in front, subtract 1 from the exponent. So you have minus 2, x to the minus 3. Not minus 1, minus 3. Minus 2, you owe $2 to someone, and then you buy a coffee, and now you suddenly owe that same person another $1. So it's minus 3. So then here, for the second term, you have 2x, and then the minus 5 derives away completely, so you don't need to write anything there. Okay, so this was all the derivative of the green function. I'll copy over this real fast in green, just so we're 100% clear. There we go. So that's it. We can simplify this just a hair. So we have 1 minus x to the minus 2. And then you have x to the minus 2 plus x squared minus 5 plus x to the minus 1. And then minus 2 x to the minus 3 plus 2x. Could we simplify this thing more, make it prettier? Yes, if you didn't like looking at negative exponents and some professor or teacher insists that you're not allowed to have them, which to me is a ridiculous rule, there's no reason for it, you can do the following. You can bring it all back to the denominator where they belong. So you have 1 over x squared times times 1 over x squared plus x squared minus 5 plus x plus 1 over x. So basically we're just turning all of our negative exponents into positive exponents in the denominator. Usual exponent rules. Nothing too complicated about that. Yes, you could FOIL this. Yes, it could be simplified further if you really wanted to. to expand this all. I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to want you to do that, because it just means more mistakes that could have been made, and it makes your teacher or professor's grading life harder. So you probably could have stopped right here on this line, but if you're pedantic like I am and you feel confident in your abilities, I would go down to the second check mark.